I'm sure many of my peers here are aware of the social media platform TikTok, and I know a few of us can name some popular influencers on the app, like Charlie D'Amelio, Nessun Barrett, and Addison Rae, especially Addison Rae. This TikTok star has been the talk of the town for a few months now, and it isn't for any good reasons. She's gotten backlash for saying racial slurs, for telling good friends of hers to say racial slurs, for being the reason why Keeping Up with the Kardashians is ending, for believing in All Lives Matter, for being a Trump supporter, and so much more. You can't imagine how much hate she's gotten. Addison Rae has been on several news articles and media apps all about the racist things she's done. Or should I say the racist things people think she's said and done. None of those things that I mentioned were true. She never supported Trump, never believed in All Lives Matter, did not say a single racial slur, and definitely had no involvement in the ending of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Does that mean she's lost many supporters and opportunities for nothing? Why would people spread fake news like that without checking if it's true or not? Most people don't even realize how much of an impact their finger pressing has until it's too late. Seeing all these people getting criticized online for things that they never did made me realize how normalized it is just to read something online and automatically believe it's true. We're all victims of reading online disinformation, but what's important is how we deal with it. I've seen several family and friends get involved in reading online misinformation and then spreading it to other family and friends without analyzing anything. Sometimes there might not be any physical consequences seen, but it always has an impact on someone or something. How does misinformation start, and why are we so obsessed with the fake news we see online? To answer those questions, I interviewed a journalist for the New York Times. Kevin Rose focuses primarily on technology and fixing up misinformed headlines and stories. I asked if he had any idea why false information spreads faster than real news, and he says because it's usually more interesting than factual news. He compares it to movies portraying UFOs and aliens. The false explanation is more interesting than the true one. He says it's more interesting to believe there's a global conspiracy to inject people with microchips in their vaccines, leading to Bill Gates controlling their thoughts, rather than the vaccine was produced by hardworking scientists and it works pretty well and you should take it. Believe it or not, the process of what we want to believe involves biology. There are two areas in the brain for our emotions and opinions, which are heavily related to the false theories we spread. The lateral prefrontal cortex, which is a part of the frontal lobe, is usually inactive during times when reasoning is meant to be used. Therefore, many people rarely use any reasoning when explaining why they like this or why they believe in that, especially if they know little to nothing about who or what they're arguing for. The orbital frontal cortex is a part of the brain that processes emotions and is involved in the decisions we make, which is what most people use when stating their opinions. When this part of the brain is active, dopamine is released, which is a neurotransmitter that gives you pleasure when doing a certain activity that you enjoy. Anyways, their ideas and beliefs are supported through how they feel, not what they know, and favoritism plays a huge role in that as well. Cognitive bias is another important factor. It means limiting our thinking, which leads to certain imperfections in our perception. Every time we form a conclusion, evidential or not, it's hard to change them, even if research and facts are being presented. Usually, people search for news that they believe is true or want to believe is true, which is known as confirmation bias. If there is any type of information that threatens what we believe, we usually choose to ignore or make little of that statement. One way of thinking also relates to the speed of misinformation being spread online. Have you ever heard of the phrase, a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes? This shows how fast it takes for one false statement to reach millions of viewers within seconds, and since many people have already acknowledged the statement, it's harder for the truth to be as widespread and taken seriously. According to an analysis made around the presidential election in 2016, the top 20 election articles that were fake and misleading spawned more shares, retweets, and comments than the top 20 factual election news articles. In the diagram, you can see that the closer it was to election day, the more views fake news received, resulting in it exceeding the mainstream views. One of the popular fake articles claimed that Hillary sold weapons to ISIS and that her emails about ISIS were leaked. How does fake news even emerge? When people feel threatened or envious about someone, they believe spreading rumors will cause others to turn against them. Even if some of the rumors being spread around sound extremely ridiculous or unimaginable, it's supposedly entertaining and interesting, especially if the information we hear is revealing something about someone. That's one of the main issues, who and what people rely on when retrieving their news. What can we do to lessen the amount of misinformation being spread all over social media? To separate facts from fiction, we have to think like journalists, and there are many keys to that. Certified journalists have to be extremely careful and concentrated when writing a paper, for publishing something with no backup risks their entire job and status. We need to start asking basic questions that journalists also ask themselves while doing research. Who, what, when, where, how, and most importantly, why. If many of us start questioning what we read and go deeper into our research, imagine how wise and informed our world would be right now. Because people relied on the news they read on TikTok, Instagram, and more, without fact-checking anything, it led to Addison losing so many supporters, contracts, and even friends. Even on a political aspect, so much fake news spread during the presidential vote, causing people to rage. For example, there were many claims about voters that were diseased, which isn't even possible, but somehow people still believed it. Machines changing votes, and poll workers who were biased and changed some ballots. None of that was true, but it still caused many issues, like the riot at the US Capitol this January. People have lost their jobs and even their lives with these fake accusations, and this definitely threatened the government. Now, here are some techniques and steps when reading anything online. Number 1 is to slow down and don't share as soon as you're done reading. This should be the last thing to do, which will be determined by the rest of the steps. Number 2 is to always check the source. Where are you reading this from, and have you read from this source before? Step 3 is to check for any grammatical errors. Usually researched and correct news is properly written, so make sure you're reading something that looks and sounds professional. If it's from a family or friend, ask them where they've gotten the news from and use the same steps to fact check that source. Step 4. If you stumble upon any fake news about a specific topic after already researching it and collecting all verified news, help other viewers. For example, if this is from a post on social media, comment under the post telling other people what's true and what's not, and give them a reliable source for them to do more research. The whole point is to lessen the repetition of misinformation, and communication is the key to that. And lastly, remember to think like a journalist. Who, what, when, where, how, and most importantly, why. Try to use these techniques when reading anything online. By following these steps, we become more responsible and direct others to the right path when it comes to reading online news. Thank you.